I grew up in a working class family in a small village. My father was a heavy drinker. He talked to us with his fists instead of words and cared more about drink than his family. There were 4 children, but me and my brother Terry were the closest. The first time he and I ran away, we were 7 or 8. Through our childhood, we ran 3 or 4 times. I was 18 when my father died. I turned to drink and drugs. We lived in such a small village, and my mum was so embarrassed with her son being on drugs. I was giving my family a bad name. So in 1972, I moved into Hollywood with my Aunt Essie after going to a drug unit. Then I met a girl who became my wife. We were hippies in those days, young fellows trying to see what the world was about. In 1974, me and my best friend Charlie and Terry decided to go tomato picking in Guernsey for the school holidays. I took a part-time job as a grave digger. Terry got caught driving his car there with a suspended licence and went to jail for a month. I was waiting for my brother Terry getting out, and on the 6th of August I was to meet him. But on Thursday night, he was shot dead on the streets of Belfast. Something must have happened in jail for them to shoot him after only 2 days getting out. Why was he murdered? He wasn't a paramilitary. I knew who the paramilitaries were in Hollywood. I went into a bar and asked, "Why did you shoot my brother?" No one talked. One guy said he was shot for talking to Tiggs. I knew that wasn't it, and in my heart and soul, I knew who did it. The detective asked if I knew who. I gave him 5 names, but the police never came back to me. They kept me in the dark. I was clashing with the paramilitaries in Hollywood for 11 years. My house was like a fortress. If it had caught on fire, it would have burnt us up. There was no way out. It was no way to rear kids with murder and hatred on my heart. I was just trying to stay away from the paramilitaries murdering me. A few times they put me in hospital with beatings. They put me out of Hollywood 3 times, and each time I came back. When I saw those murderers walking on the street, I went heavy into drink and drugs. They put me out again, and I took my wife and 2 children with me to Donegal, but everywhere I went, there was a guard car following behind me. One night I was sitting in my wee flat, and the next morning at 5 o'clock, the door splattered. There were 4 guys in corduroys and a guard. "We're here to search the house." I said to my wife, "You go in the bedroom to make sure they don't plant anything." They put me in a concrete shed. It was the first time in my life I've been taken and interrogated, and they told me if I didn't tell them the truth, they'd shoot and dump my body at the border. Me, my wife and kids moved back to Hollywood. Up until 1985, I was still clashing with the paramilitaries, and they came to me one Friday after I had finished work and said, "You have 24 hours to get out of Hollywood or you'll be shot." My wife said, "Don't be going. If I stay, I'm signing my own death warrant." My wife was holding my leg, trying to keep me from leaving, but I knew I had to go. I signed my house over to her. She brought my kids to visit me weekends in Bangor, but it wasn't working. She decided to sell the house and move to Greece to get out of the situation. She begged me to go with them, but I had to find out the truth about my brother. This search has taken 39 years, and during it, I lost everything: my wife, my kids, my work, myself and my sanity. I ended up in a mental place. I couldn't handle my brain anymore. I've had just one goal in my life: to find out the truth about what happened to Terry. He was my brother, and I still had to find justice for him. I started going to old haunts and shebeens to see and hear if anyone said anything. One night at a bar in Newtownards, I bumped into an old friend who had been in jail with Terry and witnessed what had happened. It was a terrible unlucky thing for Terry. They were playing darts, and one of Terry's darts accidentally went into the eye of a paramilitary. The prison put Terry in protective custody, but he was shot 2 days after being released. Years later, I got verification from an ex-prison officer of what had actually happened. I know the truth, but justice hasn't been done. Of course the police knew who committed the murder. They held his hand. It was a cover-up, and now I was fighting the police as well as the paramilitaries. I was fighting all the people who were my own kind. My father had been a strong Orange man and had brought us up in the lodge. All my beliefs went. I disowned my own. I lost my loyalism. I lost my birthright. I lost my loyalty to Britain because of the police cover-up. I lost it all. I ended up living in a wee cottage on my own for 8 years and never came out. I totally isolated myself. I was a lost soul. I saw no one except my friend Molly, who brought me food. I had a severe problem going to sleep. Sometimes I sat in the car with a shotgun on my lap and murder in my heart. My family would say David should grieve and get on with his life. But how could I? I spent my 40th birthday sitting alone in the house watching the Iraq War, and my 50th and my 60th I never got a card from no one. The HET accused my brother of being a paramilitary. It was all a lie, and it just made me fight harder to prove the truth. They tried to ruin his character and blacken his name. I will never let that happen. I have to fight for him. Finally I decided I wanted nothing more to do with the HET. I can go to my grave with my truth. I hope they can go to their graves with theirs. About 10 years ago I said to myself, David, you're going to have to do something. You're going insane here. It won't end till there's an end. But how do you get an end? I went to my doctor and he sent me to a psychiatrist, and after 6 months and not getting any better, he turned to me and said, David, I'm so sorry, I don't know how to help you. He said, how can anyone help you with truth or justice? I'm coming here for help and you can't help me. I phoned Willie Fraser and he said there's a place called Wave. Make an appointment. The director, Sandra, came and visited me. Before I met her, I didn't trust nobody. But what I like about this place is I can trust the odd person again. They have helped me tremendously. This place has become my total social life. I don't go anywhere else, so I just come here. Sometimes I talk to myself too. David, you've been a drug addict, you've had a bad upbringing, you've been in jail, you've been an alcoholic. Now it's time to just be yourself, to help young people. I've spent most of my life searching for justice. I came to see I was wasting my time. Now I have to settle for truth. Terry is at peace. No one can hurt him no more. But I miss him. I've missed him all my life. When he died, I died. The person who David was wasn't there anymore, and I still haven't found him. I still see Terry all the time. He comes as a vision. I have a photograph of him at home. Before I came to Wave, I had the photo in a drawer and wouldn't look at it. I just burst into tears. After I was here a few years, I took out the photo and put it into a frame. It's in my living room now. Many a conversation I've had with that photograph. I tell him I've done everything to fight to clear his name. It's coming up to his 40th anniversary of his death. And even with all this, I would do it all again.